Alright, so I saw the new Mission Impossible, and it was pretty good. Alright, that's it. That's the video. Thanks for watching. Okay, seriously. I've been wanting to talk about this movie for a bit, but the problem is that I hadn't seen it. And yes, there sure are more topical movies like Oppenheimer or Barbie or both of them at the same time, but we'll get to those later when I end up talking about them eventually because uh YouTube algorithm. Today, I'd like to just talk about my main man, Ethan Hunt, because, like, have you seen the Mission Impossible movies? They're always really good, except for two. We don't talk about Mission Impossible 2, and we never will. God, has it been a while though? I mean, it's been 5 years since Fallout came out. Like, damn, bro. Still, here we are with the newest installment, with the next one coming out next year. Now, before we get into the juicy, spoilery details, I'd just like to say that this movie is good and that you should watch it before getting it spoiled by me because that wouldn't be any fun. So this movie is about a rogue AI that is on the verge of basically controlling the entirety of humanity. It can get into any system, computer, or server in the world and just not leave a trace. It's quite actually the ultimate threat in this movie, and that's how they make it out to be. They make it a big deal, and that's a good. Of course, instead of trying to destroy the thing, all the governments of the world are trying to control it and harness it so they can be the most powerful. To do this, they need to use a key which has two pieces to get into the original source code on a sunken Russian submarine in the Arctic. The AI destroyed itself by making them think that another submarine was trying to attack them, so they sent out a torpedo, and the AI made the torpedo come back and hit the ship. What? That's great. Now Ethan has to find both real halves of the key because there's a lot of fakes, and only one half of the key can be confirmed real unless you have the other half, and you have to put them together. And he has to take them to the submarine to destroy it, since he's like the only guy like on the planet ever who wants to destroy it. Everybody else just wants to like harness that. The good old American government. Instead of destroying the world-ending AI, they want to control it, profit off of it. World destruction equals money. I'd like to talk about the characters first and foremost. Ethan is really the same as always. I mean, if you've seen the other Mission Impossible movies, you know that like the man does way too much for the American government. I mean, seriously. You'd think he'd learn his lesson by this point, but he just hasn't. You'd think he'd have learned it by like Ghost Protocol, but nope. He still hasn't learned his lesson. He's still working for the IMF and still going rogue immediately after a mission starts. I mean, seriously, they gave them no time to breathe in this one. Barely did anything this time. All he did was go to see Ilsa, and then he immediately decided that he was going rogue and he didn't care what anybody else thought. Benji and Luther can, as always, be summed up as the comic relief guys, and don't get me wrong, I love them. Like, who doesn't love Benji and Luther? They're like the best part of all these movies. They're great. I love them with all my hearts. But they also don't have a whole lot to do in this specific story. Really, all they do is kind of direct Ethan to where he needs to go, and then Ethan does the rest of that. A lot of the story just kind of revolves around Ethan, Grace, and Gabriel, which Grace is the new character, and so is Gabriel, actually. Grace is played by Hayley Atwell, and don't get me wrong, I love Hayley Atwell, but I hate Grace. She's a thief, and really all she does is steal things from Ethan for the entire movie. I mean, she does nothing else but steal the key from Ethan, and it's annoying. Oh yeah, and she also gets Ilsa killed. Why? Why Ilsa of all characters? She was so important to Ethan's character arc, and they just killed her. Who the fuck wrote this? And Gabriel, he's like the most evil dude ever. Seriously. Like, his whole motivation is that he just hates everybody. He just hates the human race, and he loves the entity more, which is the AI, by the way. Especially Ethan Hunt. He especially hates Ethan Hunt. Like, the dude holds a grudge on somebody who he hurt more. Like, Ethan barely did anything to Gabriel from what we know so far, and he hurt Ethan more. But yet, like, what? Like, the motherfucker killed Ethan's first love interest before the first movie and hates Ethan more than Ethan hates him. How does that even work? Let's move on to something that doesn't piss me off. Seriously, why Ilsa? Why? Why did it have to be ill? Why did it have to be ill? The way that this movie is shown is done insanely well. Specifically, the way it's shot is presented amazingly. I never didn't know what was going on in a scene, whether that be a dialogue scene or an action scene, which is really hard to do. The dialogue scenes were done super well. Everybody did a great job at acting. It always felt exactly how it should have. Whether that be tense, comedic, or relieving, because there's a lot of moments that feel really relieving. I always understood what was happening and enjoyed every second of it, especially the action scenes, all of which were fun and entertaining. I never really wanted the movie to end, even though I could tell that it was going to cut off soon. That was my main problem with this movie, the cutoff. That is always my problem with two-part movies that are coming out, in real time. Because it's hard to judge a movie fully when the story's not even finished. I mean, seriously, it doesn't feel like the movie was over when it was over. There's a similar problem with Across the Spider-Verse, which the movie isn't bad at all. I mean, that movie's amazing. Seriously, go watch it if you haven't. But the first one is better in my opinion because that one has a full story that comes to a conclusion. It sets up the next movie, yeah, but that story comes to a closing. If they just left it at that movie, nobody would be angry. I mean, yeah, there's the post-credit scene, but that doesn't mean that it's bad that they just made it the one movie. It just felt like the story got cut off halfway through and Across the Spider-Verse, which it did. And it's the same thing with this movie. I can't wait to see how it ends, though, because the way that they're going with it, the next movie seems really promising, especially if it's as good as this one. Also, I haven't really given a definitive score to any of the things that I've reviewed, even though I do have strong opinions on the score for each of those things. So this, my dear friends, will be the first one. I give Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 an 8 out of 10. Oh, and My Adventures with Superman is a 9 out of 10. And Spectacular Spider-Man is a 9 out of 10 also. Just thought I'd give you those since I didn't do it for those videos. Anyways, thanks for watching, and roll the outro, my man. Let's get going.